What's going on, everybody? It is I, Coach Dom, with my beautiful co host, Kiani Adams, and we are back with another great episode of the No BS Fitness Prescription Podcast. Today, we have a great guest, a friend of mine, someone that I also would call a mentor of mine in this industry. We have Terrence Thomas, a high performance health coach. Welcome to the show, Terrence.
Thank you, Mr. Dominic, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, yes. Um, Getting right into it, right? Just walk us through your journey, who you are, and how you got started in your journey. We first met down in South Florida, working together on some things, learning about you when I was new to that area. So, yeah, man, just hop right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Yep, that's always an interesting question that people always ask me, and the short answer is, I mean, this health and fitness and personal development game is always been a part of my life. I can remember, even 8, 9, 10, I was always taking the initiative to work out and do the home calisthenics. And I remember my first football coach in Little League. He and his son were he and his son were me and his son were the same age. And after games, I would go over to my coach's house to lift weights specifically for that reason. I mean, I wanted to play with my friend, but more specifically, I wanted to use his weight room. So even back then, it was always in me. And as I got into my teenage years, I ended up meeting my uncle, my dad's brother. I didn't meet him until I was like 9 or 10 because he was stationed over in California. He was in the Marine Corps. So when he got out, he relocated back to Florida. And when I saw him, I was I was dumbfounded. I mean, he was like a real live working He-Man. Like he was that guy for me. And I was already into physical culture. So I literally just attached myself to his hip and he taught me everything that I know in terms of just getting started. He's my first mentor, and that's kind of where it started. I mean, I started training clients when I was 15 in high school. That was again something that was uh, the universe sent it to me. Long story short, my high school was one of the only high schools in Florida that had bodybuilding competitions, and I was the only underclassman to win that competition in the first 15 years. So after I won that competition, everybody started coming up to ask me to train them, and I'm like, okay, I'll show you what I know. But at that point, I'm 15. I wasn't even old enough to get certified yet. So anyway, a couple years later, my football teammate asked me to come work at a gym, which was Bally Scandinavian at the time. So my first real job was, I think I was 16 and I was a floor person. I went around and cleaned equipment and make sure people didn't kill themselves on the equipment. And I did that up until I graduated high school. And that's when I got my first certification right when I turned 18. I worked my way through college as a personal trainer. So from 19 to 18 to 22, whenever I graduated, took a year off. I worked my way as a personal trainer, paid for my education cash. And then after I graduated, that's when I started what I call my life-changing journey. And I started studying with my then mentor, Paul Chek, and did 4 years of holistic healthcare study with Paul. And that's the kind of work that I've been doing ever since. So that's the long answer. But at this point, my mission is to help people simplify this process with all the information that's out there, with all of the tactics that people can latch onto to achieve their goal. My role is just to keep it simple, to keep people attached to a few universal truths that will work no matter what trend is coming in and out of the zeitgeist at the time. So just think of me as a cheat code to to getting people's results and to reduce as much suffering as I can. So again, making that answer the long story longer.
Okay, okay.
What drew you to bodybuilding specifically in high school?
Well, by the time I was in bodybuilding, by the time I was in high school, I was already in hooked. By the time I did that first show, I had already been training for like 3 years. I started training like officially training when I was 12. So my uncle was already mentoring me, and I was always into physical culture. You may remember, Dom, do you remember that cartoon He-Man?
Yep.
And just being in awe of the body and just that whole look of just muscularity and symmetry and beauty and aesthetics. I was all in.
So
There was no, you didn't have to pull teeth for me to work out and to be able to do that. So it was always in me at this point, for sure.
Nice, nice. Um, your maximum vitality program is central to your overall health and wellness brand. How do you define vitality in a way that's different from just health or fitness? And then what's the practical difference for someone that you would say trying to, initially get their life back? As you said that you label yourself a cheat code. So what makes you also different from that realm?
Yeah, so I guess that was a kind of a two-part question, but what I essentially teach and the system that I created is going to help people acquire skill sets in four key areas. And at the end of the day, whatever result that you want to accomplish, it's all about acquiring skill. It's one thing to gather information, which there's no shortage of, but the key to producing results in your life is you have to apply that information. So you have to apply it long enough to where it's a part of your life. So it's very much a skills-based curriculum. And the four pillars that I use is physical, organ health, hormone optimization, and we'll call it stress management, lifestyle, healthy habit realm. So I essentially coach, train, empower people in those four pillars. I can dive deep into each one if you like, but you tell
Yeah,
me.
break them. Go ahead. Let's break them down for the people because we may know what they are, but there's a lot of people out there that don't.
So when it comes to pillar number one, we're talking about your physical, meaning anything in regards to your physical, whether your physical fitness, your weight, how you look. I call it at its root physical hygiene. Okay, physical hygiene, meaning that there's a certain baseline of functionality that all human beings need in order to thrive and not die sooner than later. So at minimum, you have to maintain your physical hygiene, just like with your teeth, you gotta, brush and floss every day in order to maintain your oral hygiene. So if I can get someone to at least achieve a baseline of physical hygiene, it will put them in the best position to maintain their frame physically. So in terms of the skills that people need, obviously it's foundational: mobility, posture, being able to breathe properly, then be able to integrate that baseline posture into coordinated movement, then to be able to protect your frame from itself, which is essentially what stability and core conditioning is, to make a long story short, and then be able to now take that stabilized frame and apply force, which is strength. And then should someone want to advance further than that into the athletic and high performance realm, we would then add in that power component. So essentially it's the flexibility, stability, balance, strength, and power compendium. That's the strength and conditioning and the coach's version of that.
yes.
So however that looks for that individual. So that's the short answer of the pillar number one.
Okay.
And in regards to pillar number two, which is essentially organ health, I mean, I always say organ health is like the referee. Okay, the organ health is going to give, it's going to be able to give you that green card, red card, or yellow card. We're trying to prevent you from getting a red card, and a red card in this case means a disease and keep getting you out of the game. So we have to look at organ health, and we have to make sure that all of your major organs of detoxification and nutrition are working properly. Um, and I break it down. Essentially, there's only two ways that people end up getting sick. One is from a nutritional deficiency, and two is from an accumulation of toxins. So if you're dealing with those two things, you're going to put yourself in a very good position to be healthy. So we look at how all of your major organ systems are functioning to be able to identify any red flags, to be able to identify any nutrient deficiencies and organ inefficiencies. So once we identify that, we've pretty much identified any blocking factors that could potentially get you a red card. Once you have that clear, then your runway is essentially clear to start to progress. Oftentimes, people have so many blocking factors that they may mean well when it comes to trying to accomplish their goal, but there's so many obstacles in their way. So they're essentially getting hit by punches that they do not see, which is the most dangerous form. Just like in combat sports, they say the most dangerous punch is the one that you don't see. But in the health game, the most dangerous issue is the one that you're not aware of. So this process of identifying blocking factors and identifying what's preventing you from healing, I believe, is even more important than actually the tactic that's going to move you forward itself. So pillar number 2 is that in a nutshell. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, Keone.
Sorry, I was going to say, how do you go about identifying those obstacles? Like, do you have a specific process?
Absolutely. So it's a combination of physical exam. It's a combination of having clients fill out a specific set of paperwork that helps me troubleshoot that, and I run specific labs as needed depending on the client. I run blood, hair, and whatever's needed for the time. But typically I'm running blood and hair as a baseline, and then that helps us get a really good snapshot of what's going on there, for sure.
And then going on to the third principle, what is that?
Yeah. So pillar number 3, hormone optimization. So with hormones, I like to put it in this perspective. Everybody's talking about TRT and hormone optimization. It's very popular in the zeitgeist, rightfully so. It's important. But I think when people put hormone optimization in its right place, they're going to extract maximum benefit from it rather than skipping the steps that I've just mentioned here and then trying to jump to that. So my philosophy in terms of hormones is that you have to have the prerequisite foundation of health before you start adding in hormones. If we're talking about TRT and exogenous hormones, but from optimizing hormones naturally, you have to understand that hormones, they protect your vitality. And then secondarily, they can then enhance your performance. So there's primary hormones and then there's secondary hormones. Okay, if you're addressing primary hormones, your secondary hormones, which are your sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, XYZ, will tend to take care of themselves. Will they resolve completely? Maybe, but I can tell you that if you're addressing your primary hormones, you're going to put yourself in the best position to optimize your sex hormones. So your primary hormones are insulin, cortisol, and adrenaline. Okay. Those are considered primary because those are the 3 that can kill you faster than having a testosterone, estrogen, and even a progesterone deficiency. So if you're addressing primary hormones, it essentially reduces the burden on the secondary and it allows the body to start to heal and increase hormone production, which is a long story short. So oftentimes with declines in testosterone and estrogen, there's a significant primary hormone dysfunction, particularly in blood sugar. If your blood sugar is all over the place, it's going to be very difficult for you to optimize your hormones. So if you can get someone to manage their blood sugar and get their cortisol levels under control, that's going to, again, clear that runway for the hormones to heal. Okay. Once you're locked in to that particular skill set, and once you've got that brick laid down, when you add on things to boost testosterone, whether it's through natural supplementation or prescription hormones, it's going to turn that into Wolverine sauce where it's going to really do its job rather than having it be a band-aid to cover up a dysfunctional lifestyle. So within my process, again, I'm going to be troubleshooting and trying to figure out what the obstacles are for that particular person or athlete's hormone situation, and then we can start to get them back on track. But I'm always looking at primary hormones first, because I understand that I'm not going to get anything on the testosterone and that side until we get that sorted. So
It's like laying the foundation first.
you have to, otherwise you're going to be climbing a greasy pole. You know, you're going to be moving and you're not going to be going anywhere, or your results will be fleeting at best.
Do you feel like a lot of people, we can stick with men for now. Do you feel like a lot of them are going about that the wrong way, like how to get those most optimal results, knowing that a lot of that decline, versus the normal aspect is lifestyle driven?
Yeah, it's a common mistake. And I mean, when there's so much information out there in regards to the benefits of testosterone, it's a natural thing for men to just say, okay, let me just go ahead and take some testosterone without having the awareness, the knowledge, and dare I say the effort, the wanting to put in that effort. Because I mean, if human nature is this, if we can accomplish something easier than more difficult, we're going to go towards it. So when you add in all of those different outliers, yeah, you can get a lot of men making the same mistake when trying to jump steps. And some of them figure it out on the fly, and other ones, they will continue to be on the roller coaster of get a little bit of results, come back, and never really solidify their gains, as they say. So yeah, it's a common mistake for sure.
You mentioned blood sugar regulation and things like that. What are in your experience, what are like some of the best practical and optimal ways that people can work on that? Because
Okay.
it seems like a lot of people know, that they have insulin issues, but there's also 1,000 questions that people have when it comes to how do I fix that?
Okay, let's I'm gonna slowly go down the rabbit hole with this. Let's start with the simplest concept first. So we can talk macros on a very fundamental level. Okay. If your macronutrient ratios are such that it stabilizes your blood sugar, that's going to be layer number one. Now, let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit now. Your macronutrient ratio and what's going to stabilize your blood sugar is going to depend on your individual metabolism. Okay, because everyone's metabolism and metabolic and nutritional needs are quite unique. This has been proven for probably close to 100 years now in various publications and books. But Dr. William Walcott's system, the metabolic typing and system, his book, The Metabolic Typing Diet, clearly explains it. And Dr. Walcott's book, William, I don't think he's a doctor, but Bill's book cites all of the research and all of the other data that proves that metabolic individuality is quite real. So once you understand how your particular metabolism works, then you can start to tailor those macros to stabilize your blood sugar. So how do you know your blood sugar is being stabilized? So the KPIs that you can look at is this. Is the meal maintaining satiety for 3 hours? That's a good rule of thumb. If you're getting hungry shorter than, within an hour to an hour and a half after you've eaten what you would consider a meal, the macros are probably off. That window is okay for a snack, but if it's a meal and you're getting hungry that soon, something had to be off. Or on the other end, if you eat that meal and it bogged you down and you feel sluggish, that could also mean the macros could be off, but for the opposite reason. Okay. So this is where let's go further down the rabbit hole. When it comes to metabolic individuality, there are a couple of things that we look at. We look at what we call oxidation rate, meaning the speed at which someone converts fuel to energy. And then secondarily to that would be autonomic nervous system, meaning that how your nervous system responds to nutrients and the environment. Okay. So certain people by genetics are more oxidative dominant, meaning that fuel conversion dominates their metabolism. And certain people are what we call autonomic or nervous system dominant. So depending on what your metabolism and what your metabolic type is, you're going to be able to make certain adjustments. Okay. So at the end of the day, as complicated as that sounds, your body's going to tell you either way. Okay. If you're using that satiety KPI, your body's going to tell you. Okay. Your body doesn't lie. So it's going to be your best nutritionist. So if you're tracking how you respond and you're tracking symptoms, you should land in the right place sooner than later, right? Obviously, if you have a guidance system, it's going to save you some time. But again, if someone's willing to think critically, they can get there. So to take it a little bit further down the rabbit hole, once you then understand your kind of how your body processes food, you can then have data in terms of how to balance your macros. Then you can start to determine what nutrients that you would need specifically for that metabolic type. So let's talk about minerals in particular, because minerals are essentially, I think they're the baseline. I have a 3M framework that I use to explain this. So the 3 M's that you want to be concerned with are minerals, micronutrients, and macronutrients, with minerals being at the bottom of that foundation, okay? Because minerals are essentially the spark plugs of the cells. They make the cells do their thing, okay? Even before your macros. So if you have a mineral deficiency, getting to your point, Dom, in terms of blood sugar regulation, most all mineral deficiencies are going to keep you in a state of dysregulated blood sugar, particularly what we call your big 4 minerals: sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Those are if I had to throw something against the wall, regardless of metabolic type, if you have an imbalance in those 4, there are going to be issues. So we always look at those 4 big ones and then determine things from there. So that's a little bit down the rabbit hole. I can get deeper, but I hope hopefully that answers your question. But so there's layers to it, and as complicated as I'm getting with this from an implementation standpoint, my rule is to only get as complicated as needed to get the result. Now listen, if I start someone, or if someone gets it done with macros, great. That means that we don't have to get it further. But unfortunately, because of everything that's going on, many people are presenting very sick. They have deep-seated, long-standing nutritional and metabolic imbalances that unfortunately require some deep troubleshooting. So to be able to have these frameworks and to be able to have this investigatory process, it helps me help people to get to this and get them over the hump. So
can you give us 2 scenarios where like somebody would benefit, like could get it done with just macros, and then a situation where you would need to dial in a little bit more with the other M's, the minerals and the micronutrients?
Well, so assuming that the person has their minerals balanced, assuming that they're getting all of the baseline micros, then that's when macros would do what they're supposed to do in terms of let me back up and say, what's the goal specific that we're speaking about?
Goal is to improve daily energy, drop fat, and improve, like, let's say A1C levels.
Okay, so the energy part, let's start with the energy. The energy is kind of a rabbit hole in and of itself. So we have to ask ourselves, what's causing the low energy? Is it a nutritional deficiency? Is it a calorie deficit? Is it a hormone issue? So this is where the investigatory process comes in. But to answer your question in regards to this, if So let's put it this way. So if a person's already doing the macro part and still not accomplishing the goals that you're saying, then it's time to dive deeper and say, okay, why is it most of the time they're not accessing their food properly, they're not digesting, they're not able to access the energy that they're bringing in, which tells me that's an absorption and a conversion problem. Okay, so we look at gut, we look at the nutrients that are involved in allowing you to properly draw the energy that you're lacking. So it's an interesting conversation, because as much as I just kind of separated the pillars, they actually almost create this Venn diagram to where sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that, but you have to be able to understand how things shift. But regardless of what your question is, I would still start with the foundation and say, okay, what's your minerals looking like? Because if those are off, your macros are still gonna, you know what I mean? So if you follow the foundation the way I laid it out, you should come to the conclusion. They probably have mineral imbalances or deficiencies, which by default you're gonna be deficient in the micros, which are your vitamins and larger nutrients, and then from there, because if you don't have the minerals and the micros on board, you're not going to be able to get the energy from your macros. Sorry, I had to plug in. I was running low on juice.
It's okay.
So yeah, it's a choke, but yeah. So like I said, you can reverse engineer that problem. So if you haven't addressed minerals specifically and micros, and you're already doing macros, that means that we have to again dive a little bit deeper in. But having done hundreds at this point of hair tests and assessments, 95% of people need to address their minerals, because it's huge, just especially with what's going on with the soil. And so think of it this way: with the food supply and the way food is made these days, not only do we have to deal with the lack of nutrition, we also have to deal with the nutrient displacing effect of these foods, meaning that not only do we have to deal with food that doesn't have enough nutrition in it, we have to deal with the fact that the food that many people are eating is pulling nutrients out of their base nutrient reserves because of all the crap that's in them. Which you have to remember, anytime that you're eating a toxin, your body has to sacrifice and pull nutrients to be able to deal with that. So you're basically pulling from your baseline reserves. And let me define what a toxin is in this case. This is gonna hit you different. A toxin is anything that disrupts your normal physiology. That could mean something that you think could be healthy for you. Okay? Because this is where the concept of metabolic individuality comes in. Okay, what makes one person healthy may make someone else ill. So you have to be able to understand if something is acting as a nutrient or displacing a displacement food. It's I almost feel bad that we have to complicate it to this point, because if we were out in the wild and living less complicated, we wouldn't have these issues. But unfortunately, we have to be able to now think critically to navigate these things. So that's the long answer to that.
No, that was good.
Let me know if I missed anything.
No,
I think that was good, because I mean, like you said, and I mean, we deal with this in the nutrition space, as you know, a lot, is like a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm eating my macros, so this should be happening or that should be happening. But specifically, like you said, you can eat whatever macros you want, and if your body's not absorbing those nutrients correctly or prepared to take those in, like you said, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I say this. I mean, the process of weight loss, getting in shape, anything that we're talking about here, right? The process isn't linear, but it's not ambiguous. Okay, meaning that if you're doing the right things, it's going to show. Okay, if you're not doing it, it's not going to show. So I think the issue sometimes psychologically is that people think that just because they're doing XYZ that they're entitled to get XYZ result, which at its surface makes sense, but your body doesn't lie. Just like, in business, the market doesn't lie. If you run a campaign and you don't get any sales, that means the campaign sucked. So if you're executing a particular tactic and the result isn't coming at an expected time or at a reasonable time, then we have to continue to troubleshoot rather than thinking, I have bad luck or I'm not destined to succeed. No, you just have to keep digging. It's the universe telling you you have to dig deeper and find the issue. So absolutely.
And then what's the next pillar you have?
The fourth.
Yes. So pillar number 4 is the mind. I'll call it mindset, success habits, and this is my self-sabotage pillar. I'll tell you a story to help you understand the importance of this. So with my training with Paul, it's a 4-year program, right? The first 3 years is heavy on the physical, functional anatomy, strength and conditioning, corrective exercise for rehabilitation purposes. By the time you're at level 3, any level 3 Chek practitioner is the educational and competency equivalent, if not more, of a doctorate in physical therapy. Okay, that's level 3. Okay, I'm a level 4 former faculty. So in level 4, Paul sits us down and he goes, that stuff you just learned for the first 3 years, you can forget all that, because if you don't get what I'm about to teach you in level 4, none of it's going to matter. And what I'm speaking about is what we call the behind the curtain stuff. This is the mental, the psychological. These are all the self-sabotaging beliefs that keep people from healing. So that's the short of it, and there are many. So what I did as my own frameworks is I created a framework called ACCESS. Okay, ACCESS is an acronym that I'll break down here, and this is essentially the bulk of my pillar number 4. Okay, ACCESS is an acronym, and the A stands for accountability. Okay, we need that virtue. Regardless of what goal you want, you have to be accountable for it. You have to be responsible. So A stands for accountability. C, the first C, stands for creativity. Okay, creativity, not in the sense of like being an artist or being able to write bars and things like that, which is a part of creativity, but creativity within this acronym is synonymous with resourcefulness. Okay, resourcefulness meaning, do you have the capacity to find that thing within you to do the thing that you want to do? Okay, and ultimately, the key to resourcefulness is to be able to quiet your mind amongst all of the things that prevent us from doing that in this day and age. So that C is creativity / resourcefulness. Then the other C is communication. Communication. Anything that we want to accomplish is on the other side of being an effective communicator, whether it's communicating with ourselves or anyone else. So communication is that one. E stands for effort and energy. Okay, it takes energy and effort to move forward with your goals. If you don't have energy, it's going to be kind of hard to do it. And we get energy from all the pillars that we've just discussed. So they go hand in hand. And where am I at? ACCESS. And the first S is self-reflection, meaning that we have to be honest with ourselves, especially with men. Okay, men especially, we have an infinite ability to BS ourselves. It's just the nature of having a bunch of testosterone. Pride is a powerful virtue that must be tamed. So self-reflection is a virtue that we have to to acquire. We have to be honest about the results that we're producing. And we have to be honest enough to look at the results that we have produced, because in those results, be them positive or negative, we can gain wisdom from that. Okay. Most of the time we gain more wisdom from the L's. So we have to be honest enough to look at it without beating ourselves up and turning into our 5-year-old boy self. Another topic. We'll get into king, warrior, magician, lover at another time. So, and then the last S is self-actualization. Okay. Understanding and being aware of what we are here to do. Okay. Self-actualization is determining what your big dream is, your guiding light in your life. So if I'm troubleshooting a client or a person who's having a hard time in this area, meaning they're engaging in behaviors of self-sabotage and things like that, I'm typically troubleshooting in one of these areas, and one of the time it's going to be one or more of those. And if we start to work into those, we can start moving them forward. So this essentially this is like a toolbox. Essentially, this is my toolbox to help clients keep the head trash in the trash rather than in their head. So that's what pillar number 4 is about. The long answer.
Okay.
I like that. What would you say is like the length of time it takes somebody to go through these pillars when they work with you?
I'll give you 2 answers. I mean, everyone's on their own journey, and people come to me for different reasons. Some people come for me for life coaching. Some people come for me to get over injuries, performance. So depending on where they're at, depending on where they're willing to be coached, depending on time, resources, and things like that, it's going to vary. But I mean, if someone told me, say, hey, here's a blank check and take me through this. I'm your student. You're my master, XYZ. You know, what was the Kill Bill character? Pow Mang, whatever it is. Yeah. I would say anywhere between 12 to 18 months, really, like legit. Okay. I mean, if like for example, my athletes, I give especially my pro athletes, I give them the same spiel. I'm like, look, this is a marathon and not a sprint. Okay. I'm going to need at least 2 years for you for me, one, to teach you this system, but more importantly, for you to own this system to where it's a natural part of your life and get to the point where you ultimately don't need me anymore, which is the sign that I've done my job. So I guess that's the long answer. But again, everybody's journey is different. Okay, so wherever a person is willing to start, we start there, and then they can maybe work on this for a little while until they acquire a certain level of mastery, and then we can go from there. So hopefully that answers your question. It depends.
Oh yeah, no, because I just wanted to ask that. I kind of knew the answer was going to be it depends and longer time frame. But I think it's important so that people see that it's not like babies or the way things are marketed now. It's like get this 90-day program or this 30-day program. It's a longer process to make some of these changes and also make it stick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess with most people, first thing is, okay, manage your expectations. And is your expectation realistic? Meaning that, are you trying to achieve something that's outside of functional possibility? I mean, anything's possible, but if you're trying to, lose 100 pounds in 90 days and you have no systems in place, then that's going to be a tough day at the office. Again, so if a person can manage their expectations, and I think that people become better at managing their expectations as they become more aware and educated, because again, on average, most people are crafting their results and expectations based on social media and what's out there. They're seeing these crazy transformations, so they embed it in their mind that they should be doing that, or that's realistic. So I think the more aware a person becomes of themselves and fact versus fiction, those things start to get sorted out. So I guess the short of it is many people are so problem unaware that they unknowingly put unrealistic expectations on themselves for all of the reasons that I've mentioned here, but that they're not aware of all these blocking factors that they have to clear out before they can actually, start to really progress. So
Yeah. Dom.
What
yeah.
as far as like men, why do you feel like men struggle more with aging than they admit? Especially like right now, as far as like I know you spoke a little bit on like the male ego and the fragility and things like that. And then with that, like what are some of the first mindset shifts that you try to use to get people more on board? Just like how you spoke on like the understanding the time frame of the goal that you may want and what it really looks like.
Okay, so there's a couple of layers to that box. So I guess to answer your first question about why do I think you said why do I think men are aging like I guess faster? I mean, that's just genetics. We kind of tend to do. On average we tend to die before women, but from what's happening now, I think the number one problem with men is neglect. Okay, we don't want to go to the damn doctor. You know what I mean? We'd rather just power through it. I mean, just from a rudimentary standpoint, you know. But again, that goes back to the pride issue. But for those men that actually want to take a little bit of responsibility for their health, but still are not kind of getting there, it comes back to awareness and understanding what they need as an individual, and understanding that their result is possible and it's waiting for them on the other side of self-awareness. Okay, it's on the other side of using that access framework to find their personal success formula. Okay, but and what was the other question? Yeah, it was
It was
multi-layered.
pretty much what are some of like the initial mindset shift changes that you take with people, knowing that like starting out, like a person may say that they're ready for change, but with you doing your deep dive and whatnot, you can tell the things that they may have standing in their way, and it's more so going to be, emotional and mental before anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I guess okay, okay, got it. So, I mean, the first thing is you have to make self-care a non-negotiable, right? Just like not showing up for work is a non-negotiable because you ain't gonna get that paycheck if you don't show up.
Right.
So it has to have that level of urgency. It has to have that level of priority. Okay. So making it a non-negotiable. And I'm sorry, say that question one more time because I was getting to
What are
that point.
some of the initial
Right.
mindset shifts that you try to have people take that are working with you, knowing that you can see what they have going on and the things that are blocking them first and
Got it.
foremost are
Got
more
it.
mental and emotional.
Yeah. So first of all, it has to be a non-negotiable, but and then at the root, basically they have to adopt the mindset that their old self has to die. Okay. That the mindset that they brought into it has to die. The way that they are currently viewing themselves has to die. Meaning that, okay, instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, or this thing that my coach is requiring of me is difficult, or something like that, the shift has to be, I am that dude that does this now. Okay. I once was this, and this is what the results that I've gotten that have gotten me here. But now I am identifying with this, and I am the person that actually does this. Okay, at its root. I mean, that's essentially it. That's the base. The old self has to die. Okay, you can't want this new thing and still be holding on to the other thing because you got to let this thing go to be able to grab this thing. So kind of that deal. I mean, if I wanted to the root of it, I mean, there's that being able to let go of this and grab the new thing, that in and of itself is an eight-headed dragon that when you cut one head off, the damn thing grows back. So because old habits are like that. So it's going to take, it often takes several iterations. It takes work. It takes messing up a few times to really get the lesson. That's just the nature of learning. You know, they say that if you haven't learned the lesson, the universe will continue to present you with the same problem and challenge until you get it. So that's the root of it. And then, you know, when you really break it down, just getting a little bit woo-woo for a second, you know, most of these most of the self-sabotaging issues come from a root chakra dysfunction, meaning look, pulling from the Hindu philosophy of the 7 chakras, base chakra, sacral chakra, belly chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye, ethereal. Okay, those chakras evolve chronologically. So your root chakra, which is your first chakra, that's years 1 to 7 in your life. Second, you know, 7 to 14, all the way up. So if someone has experienced trauma or some type of challenge in those 1 through 7, which 99% of people have, you know, those are going to be challenges that you're going to have to navigate and deal with. And most of the time, they're going to dictate many of the self-sabotaging behaviors. There are, and they interconnect as well, but chakra science is another conversation. But just know that most of the stuff's coming from childhood stuff. And until we can heal that shit, it's going to haunt us. That dog's going to keep hunting. So as men, we have to know that it's okay to feel what we feel because it happened to us, but then it behooves the masculine journey to take on dealing with that. That's how we self-actualize, by doing that. Okay, the common behavior is to numb it, is to compartmentalize. Ask me how I know. So but at a certain point, it takes a lot of energy to do that, and eventually you're gonna run out of energy, and it shows up in the form of a mental breakdown, a physical breakdown, and then you're forced to deal with it, or you don't. You just transition on and not. So that's where I believe health challenges are gifts, because it's telling you that there's only one way to go after that. In this realm, it forces you to start fighting your way out of the corner. So these are the, you know, it's almost like these are the in-game adjustments that have to be made in order to succeed. It's like, you know, in football, you come in with a game plan, but then, you know, obviously your opponent comes in with a game plan as well. And, you know, most of the time the original game plan works, but as you get to better teams, the one who's going to succeed and move on in the playoffs is going to be the ones who make the in-game adjustments.
Right.
And the ones who make in-game adjustments are the ones who has that knowledge and foresight and skill and experience to make those in-game adjustments without getting overwhelmed by the moment. So as a high-level coach, what I'm doing is I'm helping my client make these in-game adjustments, you know, in their life and decision making. So, and that just comes with, you know, reviewing and self-reflecting on the potential mess ups or deviations in the plan. So, but again, just from a man pride perspective, if you just release all of the judgment on yourself and just know that anything that you do, bad or good, is just data. It's just data. It's just feedback. Okay. So once you take the judgment out of it, it gives you permission to just keep moving forward. So.
Okay. And then with that, right, you spoke on some of the things of your messaging, tapping into confidence, dominance, and self-mastery. How do you help men rebuild their identity, as you were speaking, like beyond the physical, especially when they feel like they've lost something with age, or as you spoke on, like with trauma and things like that?
Well, I'd say, I mean, depending on, because there's a lot there. I would have a conversation with them and say, okay, what's the current belief system? Like you were saying, you said, you know, with age, I'll be 52 in May. Okay. I feel exactly as I did when I was 21, probably better just because I've been in this body long enough to know it better. So I guess the first thing is that what's the alternative to aging? So,
Right.
we have to understand that our bodies are going to do certain things as we continue to live, and that's just a part of it. So aging doesn't necessarily, it's not a bad thing, first off. But in terms of helping them make the shift, it's there's so much there. I'm just trying to package it up for you. It's just beating on your craft, man. I mean, just like anything else. It's if you're beating on your craft and knowing that you're gonna mess up, just like when you're jamming with an instrument, you're not gonna hit the note all the time. You know, you're gonna mess up and just give yourself grace to mess up because that's how you learn. If you're approaching this game, especially your own health and vitality and personal development from a perfectionistic standpoint, it tends to lock up your hard drive and you get into this fear pattern which keeps you from doing nothing. So I guess what I'm trying to do is to free you up, to give yourself grace to jam, because that's the only way you're going to learn. you
Right.
know at the end of the day, nobody's going to be in that box with you when they put you in the ground. So I'll be damned if they're going to dictate or what you do in terms of what you put out in the world, because that's it. If you just release the judgment, it's going to give you the freedom to just go. I mean, and what else do you want to unpack with that?
No, that was pretty much it right there.
Yeah, I mean, all the X's and O's are, I mean, those are the easy part. I mean, when you can give someone the freedom to succeed, and when you can let them know that it's okay to mess up, most of the time the execution part on the tactic is gonna be there. It's just believing that you deserve it and knowing that there's a better way to gain that comfort that you are currently seeking through self-sabotaging behavior, rather than, the porn or the alcohol. You're going to get a better hit from, eating something healthy and staying accountable to yourself. I mean, it's you versus you at the end of the day. So if you're having these conversations with yourself, it's like you have two people. You have the slave and the master, and they're both having this tug of war with each other. If the master is winning, you're moving forward. So just making this, don't negotiate with as Bedros said, I think in his book, Man Up, don't negotiate with your inner bitch. is what it boils down to. This is men talk. This is men here. I mean, again, there's grace there, but there's a certain point where you got to just put your foot down with yourself and say, hey, my time on this earth is quite limited. And I know I'm capable of more. So it's either piss or get off the pot. Okay. But if you take that one step, however you and whatever you believe in, it will support you. God will support you. The universe will get out of your way, however you want to look at it. But just keep it moving. I mean, use the laws of physics that we have within this realm. It applies at every level. It applies with physical objects. It applies with mental, emotional. So if you're understanding that for every action is an equal and opposite reaction, you know that if I put in this, it's going to come back. It may not come back in the time that you want it to, but it's going to come back. Or whatever you've done can be undone to a certain degree. So if you're continuing to simplify what you now perceive as complex, it just reduces some of the burden. So my role is to kind of help people stay out of this emotional overwhelm and say, look, I know you got a lot swirling around in there, but it all comes back to some basic things. And if we just break it down, we can eat this ant can eat this elephant one bite at a time. So again, that's all dynamics and coaching, but just keep it simple. When you're feeling overwhelmed, go hard on simplifying things because, yeah, it works.
For sure. I like the way the like the four principles, or yeah, principles I'll call them. I like the way they kind of break it down into the most simple pieces. 'Cause I think when like you have a lot of responsibility, maybe you have family, you have stressors of life, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed. And then also with social media, everybody's making things a lot more complex than it is. So having that framework, and then also having somebody in your ear telling you to have grace, or like don't try to be perfect, just handle these things, I think that makes the world of a difference. It's just that people have to kind of get over their own ego.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you said, this technology is a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's a great time to be alive. We can accomplish things that we've never been able to accomplish with the technology that we have. But the other side is now we have all of this technology, and our abilities to manage it mentally, emotionally is still we're still adapting in that way. So yeah, we're jamming with it, and the way we navigate it safely is by having these types of conversations and knowing that regardless of the technology that we have, it all comes back to the universal truths. And again, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to keep people rooted in a few universal truths that they can always cling to regardless of all the new stuff and the shifts in the world. Okay, there's people, entities that stand to gain a lot from keeping people unrooted. So that's a different conversation, but I am here to execute otherwise.
How do you feel about technology in terms of like fitness wearables, like Whoop bands, or rings? Do you feel like people get so obsessed on that data and it kind of
Um, yeah, it can create some paralysis analysis and extra anxiety that's unnecessary. I don't personally wear wearables just because I know too much about the effects of electromagnetic fields and how it affects different uh, everything in the body. But if someone is going to comply with their routine by wearing a ring or a wearable initially, again, that's where you have to pick your battles and say, if this is going to help compliance, it's better than not. So if it motivates my client to execute um, at the time, I'll say, yeah, go ahead and do it. But then I know, because wisdom and intelligence and love always wins. I know that once they get to a certain point of awareness, and we have the conversation about how electromagnetic fields affects everything, electromagnetic pollution, they'll figure it out and they'll make their better decision. So, but yeah, they're tools. I mean, obviously, if it's created, that means it's here to do something. I don't believe God makes mistakes and God makes everything. So since it's here, um, it's a tool. We just have to
know how to use it.
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. We're coming up on closing, but you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about the book that you have it's already out. I know you sent me a copy, which I dove into it, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to just, man, give us an overview, break down what people can expect when it comes to that.
Yeah. So that book was written for us men. It was something that I created just to allow men to have again, a package of universal truth that they can lean on to engage in a productive self-care, health, fitness routine. This is the belly shred method, how to lose the gut, gain confidence, and transform your health. It has a lot of the principles that we're discussing here. It gives men a framework to follow in terms of nutrition. It gives them a baseline physical hygiene routine. I have, obviously, because it's belly shred method, I have a core workout in there called the ab gauntlet that takes you through a nice series of exercises to help with core. And it's not just your abs. It's again, looking at it holistically. It's not going to just get your abs strong. It's going to help increase the health of the spine and overall functionality. And then I also have a full body routine in there that you can incorporate. So it's quite a comprehensive little piece that people can follow. So this is it's not just a read. I consider it a workbook. You'll be able to pick that thing up in 20 years and hopefully be able to execute the same routine and get predictable results. So it also goes over obviously the mindset, the movement, and the meal. So that's another 3M framework. So yeah, it's a tool. I sent you a soft copy. I made a couple of edits in there. So
Okay.
I'll send you the updated copy soon. But yeah, people can get that on Amazon. And don't worry, Keone, I'm making one belly shred for her shortly. So I know eventually I know my lady clients who have a lot of them are gonna start giving me threatening me with violence to get to make one. So it's coming.
That's fine. I like it. I like it a lot. I have one other question, just because you work with men in particular too. How do you deal with the male who's overtraining and like dressing that up as discipline? Like, how do you reel them back in?
Well, with someone like that, I mean, I always bring it back to their goal. I'm like, okay, so what are we doing? What's the main goal? Is it just to exhaust yourself for the feeling of accomplishment, or are we actually trying to hit certain performance measures to move you forward? So you have to ask, is the feeling of the work, is the feeling of work itself more important than the actual gain in fill in the blank, whether it's better than losing fat or reaching a PR strength wise or fixing this marker on your blood work. So what I would do is I would keep the hard data at the forefront, because what you can then do is then help them come to the conclusion that what they're doing is not ultimately pushing them towards their goal, if that makes any sense. So from a high level coaching standpoint, the rule is this: a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. In other words, the more you can make it their idea to make the behavior shift, it's probably going to stick better, as opposed to you should do this because of X, Y, and Z. They hear you, but they're still not identifying with that new behavior yet. They're still the guy that thinks they're doing X, Y, and Z instead of the guy that is now doing X, the other thing that we mentioned before. They haven't the old person hasn't died yet, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So with him, with people like that, you have to come with hard data, because then if you're showing them the hard data and you're correlating what they're doing now with the results that they're producing, and they're still not willing to make the change, now you can see now they have to start going behind the curtain in pillar number 4. And now we got to dig into, and I promise you, it's going to come back to that root chakra that I mentioned. So, I mean, you can address that however, and with the tools, we can maybe have another conversation about whatever, like the tools that you can access to be able to start to get people to not shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah. No, I think the data is always good. That's pretty much how I try to do it as a physical therapist, is like just lead with objective data so that they can kind of make their own decision. And people do well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're saying I guess the scenario that you mentioned was within a patient dynamic, or just from an athlete dynamic?
Oh, the question was just about, I feel like a lot of times like men fall into the mindset of like just go more and more and more, and when it comes to like training, it kind of works against you. But I guess like ego thing. It wasn't a actual
specific. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the difference between the mature warrior and the young warrior. I mean, it's just about knowing. Yeah, just knowledge. I mean, again, just keeping that data on the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
I was very blessed. I mean, like I said, I had a good mentor, my uncle. So I had good foundations from the beginning. So I never went to a phase where I was overtraining like that, just because I understood the importance of recovery and everything that I was reading in magazines. It was about the Weider rest principle and the rest. It just recovery was always there in the forefront. Yeah. So but I understand that we live in this like go society, and and again, exercise can be an addiction to a certain point as well. So if you have someone with addictive brain chemistry and behaviors for various reasons, they can basically sometimes replace uh a more destructive addiction with exercise. So it's so just about understanding what you do, reading the room or reading the person in front of you, and kind of understanding what's going to be the best way to approach communicating with them to make them make the best decision. Because in any situation, there's three decisions that can be made. You can make the optimal choice, which is to do the thing that move you forward. You can make the suboptimal choice, which is to do the thing that takes you back, or you can do nothing. And again, depending on the situation, each one of those can be good or bad. So
yeah,
well, yeah,
that just comes down to being resourceful or creative and knowing
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're
So you
gonna
see how they
oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, just so you're seeing how those pillars intersect.
Right.
The fact you guys have been able to get it within this hour here, I guess, tells me that the system is quite effective. So thank you for verifying that.
No problem.
So we're gonna close out with three final quick hit questions.
Okay.
First one habit that you believe every man over 40 should lock in on immediately to better themselves.
One habit and just anything.
Yep. That you feel is at the top.
I mean, hydration. Just stay hydrated, dude. I mean, if you want a low hanging fruit, I can go. I mean, this hydration. I mean, take a 20-minute walk every day, or commit to physical hygiene, whatever that looks like for you. Okay.
Okay. Number two, one thing men need to stop doing in the name of discipline.
Stop doing, and then one thing that they need to stop doing in the name of discipline. Stop looking for cheap dopamine. Earn it. Earn your dopamine. Okay. It's yeah. No porn, no alcohol. Just we got to get back to earning your dopamine.
Okay. Okay.
Do the hard things. Do the hard things.
Definitely. And then third, your definition of real strength in one sentence.
In regards to physical or mental?
If you want to make that two-part, you can.
It's a good one.
I mean, physical strength is being able to meet the demand of the task that you desire. I mean, it's your body being able to meet the task that you want it to. I mean, simple. I mean, everyone's journeys and desires are different.
Right.
Your body becomes your friend, essentially. That's you and your body have an intimate relationship. I mean, that's the short of it. I mean, I know it's not strength in its technical terms as in terms of force production, but if a person's body is not betraying them, they're probably going to have some semblance of strength, whatever that looks like for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
in
then,
terms of, go ahead.
how would you relate that to you mentioned mental as well? How would you relate it to that?
Yeah, I mean, just resilience. I mean, just know that it goes back to that access formula. I mean, if you're humility, grace, and resilience, I mean, that's mental strength. And just knowing that, I mean, I can't simplify it. Mental strength is God, because if you're understanding that we're just here for a short time, we're not breathing, we're being breathed. Once you understand that, that's it. I mean, mental strength is God, however that looks for you.
Mm.
I know I sucked you down the rabbit hole, but that's it, like legit.
No, I
So
wheels are spinning, but I like that.
yeah, we're not. Did you hear what I just said? We're not breathing. We are being breathed. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like I don't want to say like puppet master, but I got you.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Oh man, yeah. Key, you got anything else in?
No. It's just funny you had the same thought.
I know.
What happened?
I said me and Dom had the same thought with the puppet master.
Yeah.
There's got to be a part 2, definitely, because now you brought some things up that we're not discussing today, but now I'm like and I took some notes, and now I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. It's a pleasure. It flew by, so that means a good sign.
Other than that, this was great. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you on. For the people that are interested in working with you, learning more about you, where can people find you and your work?
Right now, you can find me on my YouTube channel is Maximum Vitality. If you want to shoot me a straight email, that would be maximumvitalityprogram@gmail.com. Just subject line coaching. If they want to fill out kind of a survey that will help them kind of troubleshoot some of the 4 pillars that we discussed, I have a VAP survey, Vitality, Anti-Aging, and Performance Survey, and they can fill that out at maximumvitalityprogram.com/survey. And if they fill that out, they can get in contact with me after that in terms of if they want coaching or not.
Awesome. Well, once again, this was a great episode. This is the No BS Fitness Prescription Podcast. Once again, thank you, Terrence Thomas. I'm Coach Dominic, and this is Coach Key, and we're out of here.
Peace.